At 43 years old, Tom Brady walked away from the most successful dynasty the sport of football had ever seen. He left behind 2 decades of dominance in New England, 6 championship rings, and a head coach whose shadow loomed as large as his own. He wasn't supposed to have anything left to prove, and yet, that's exactly what he went searching for when he signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a franchise that hadn't tasted a single playoff win in nearly 20 years. Many said it was over, that he was too old, too slow, too far past his prime to matter without Bill Belichick guiding him. And when Brady's first pass as a Buccaneer was intercepted and returned for a touchdown, it seemed like the critics might have been right. But as it always seemed to go with Tom Brady, that moment was just the setup for something extraordinary. The story of Buccaneers. Tom Brady isn't about raw physical dominance. It's about defiance, defying age, defying logic, defying the inevitability of decline. It's the final act of a career that redefined greatness itself. Before he ever put on that red and pewter uniform, Brady's resume already read like myth. A scrawny, overlooked kid from Michigan drafted 199th overall in 2000, who clawed his way to become a 6-time Super Bowl champion, a 3-time MVP, and the face of the most ruthless winning machine in football history. Yet, by the late 2010s, even the unthinkable began to happen. The cracks were showing. Brady had lifted his 6th Lombardi trophy in early 2019, but the win over the Rams was no masterpiece. It was a grind, carried by Belichick's defense more than Brady's arm. The following season, his numbers slipped. Only 24 touchdowns, his lowest total in a decade, fewer yards, more frustration, more helmet slams on the sideline, and in the cold efficiency of Bill Belichick's mind, the math no longer added up. The mantra that had defined his tenure, move on a year early rather than a year late, now pointed directly at his quarterback. The tension that had always fueled their partnership hardened into distance. Brady, after 20 years, felt unappreciated, like an aging asset instead of the heart of a dynasty. He knew it was over before anyone said it out loud. His final pass as a Patriot, a pick 6 against the Titans in the playoffs, was a symbolic exclamation point. 2 decades of supremacy ended not by a rival, but by the simple passage of time. In March 2020, Brady made it official. With a message titled "Forever a Patriot," he announced that he was leaving New England. It wasn't just a career move, it was a declaration of independence. At 43, Brady entered free agency for the first time in his life. The market was skeptical. Who would build their future around a man in his mid-40s? Who would risk their roster, their culture, for a legend who might not have much left? Most teams hesitated, but one team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, took the leap. A franchise known more for futility than success, Tampa was desperate for relevance. Yet what they had, Brady saw as potential. A young defense on the rise, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and an eager front office willing to give him something he hadn't had in years: control. When Brady arrived, the ripple effects were immediate. Chris Godwin handed him the number 12 jersey. Rob Gronkowski unretired just to join him. Antonio Brown followed soon after. Tampa wasn't just adding a quarterback, they were importing an entire culture of winning. But greatness rarely comes without turbulence. Brady's first season started ugly. Interceptions, miscommunications, and a blowout loss to the Saints that became the worst defeat of his entire career. By November, Tampa was 7-5, the hype fading fast. Yet, just as he'd done for 2 decades in Foxborough, Brady flipped the switch. Coming out of the bye week, the offense exploded. The Bucs rattled off 4 straight wins and surged into the playoffs for the first time in 13 years. And when January arrived, Brady turned back the clock. In the wild card round, Washington's defense, led by brash rookie Chase Young, promised to make a statement. Brady made his instead: 381 yards, 2 touchdowns, and another postseason win. Next came New Orleans, and a duel with Drew Brees that ended not only with a Tampa victory, but with Brady personally sending Brees into retirement. Then came Lambeau Field and Aaron Rodgers, the long-awaited showdown. Brady wasn't perfect, 3 interceptions, but when it mattered most, he was brilliant, and the Buccaneers walked away with an NFC title. Super Bowl LV was the culmination. Brady versus Patrick Mahomes. the old master against the young heir. The first Super Bowl ever hosted in a team's own stadium. What should have been a generational torch passing became a statement of dominance. Brady threw 3 touchdowns, 2 to Gronkowski, while Tampa's defense suffocated Mahomes. The final score, 31-9, Brady's 7th Super Bowl ring, his 5th Super Bowl MVP, the oldest quarterback ever to win it all. In a single season, he had taken the losingest franchise in NFL history and made them champions, but he wasn't finished. The following year, Brady went under the knife for MCL surgery, an injury he had quietly played through during that championship run. Most players would need time to recover. Brady didn't. In the 2021 opener, he dropped 379 yards and 4 touchdowns on Dallas. Weeks later, he surpassed 80,000 career passing yards. And when he returned to Foxborough to face Belichick in prime time, the moment was Shakespearean. Rain fell. The lights glared. The crowd that had worshipped him for 20 years watched as he broke Drew Brees' all-time passing record and beat the Patriots 1917. The symbolic circle had closed, but rather than fade into nostalgia, Brady went nuclear. He threw 5 touchdowns against Miami, his 600th career touchdown against Chicago, and by season's end, he had shattered the record for completions and thrown for a career-best 5,216 yards. At 44 years old, he wasn't declining. He was ascending. Tampa finished 13-4, their best record ever. Even their playoff loss to the Rams after a furious comeback from a 27-3 deficit only reinforced what had always defined him: resilience, relentlessness, inevitability. Then came the off-season shock. Brady announced his retirement. The NFL exhaled, assuming the story was finally over. But 40 days later, he unretired. "My place is still on the field, not in the stands," he wrote. And so began year 23. The 2022 season, however, was different. The weight of time began to show. Injuries shredded the Buccaneers' offensive line. The run game vanished. Off the field, personal turmoil, his divorce, relentless media attention, made the year feel heavy. Brady still played, still threw, still led, but the joy seemed muted. He broke more records, becoming the first quarterback to reach 85,000 yards, then 100,000 including playoffs, and engineered more comebacks, surpassing Peyton Manning for the most game-winning drives in NFL history. But for the first time ever, Brady finished with a losing record. And yet, even at 45, even surrounded by chaos, he dragged his team to a division title. When he torched Carolina for 432 yards in Week 17 to clinch the NFC South, it was clear the fire hadn't gone out. But time, finally, was catching up. In the playoffs, Dallas ended Tampa's run. Weeks later, Brady announced it himself, this time for good. That final season was imperfect, messy, and deeply human. But even in decline, Brady was still better than almost anyone else. He left the game with every meaningful record: most passing yards, touchdowns, completions, wins, comeback drives. His Buccaneers chapter was short but seismic. Over 14,600 yards, 108 touchdowns, a Super Bowl title, and the complete rewriting of a franchise's history. What made Buccaneers Tom Brady extraordinary wasn't just the numbers, it was the context. Quarterbacks are supposed to fade in their mid-30s. Brady set career highs a decade later. He was never the fastest, strongest, or flashiest. His power was in his mind, his precision, his obsession, his refusal to lose. In his 40s, he wasn't just competing, he was redefining what was possible for an athlete. New England Tom Brady made him the greatest of all time. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady made him immortal. If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the legends that define sports history. Was Brady's Buccaneers run the greatest final act in any athlete's career? Or did it only prove what we already knew? That no matter where he played, Tom Brady was inevitable.